Good morning, everybody. I'm Patrick Taylor. I'm President and CEO of Eclipse Buffalo Niagara, and I am so excited to have a full house here at our preparedness for Eclipse event that will be taking place on Monday, April 8th. I want to get a really nice shout out to the Buffalo Eclipse Consortium because they have a great countdown clock. They've been so good about putting out some fantastic scientific information that's really accessible for people to understand what's going to be happening on the 8th of April, and I encourage you all to go and check out that site. But we are approximately 38 days, 3 hours away from being in totality. Isn't that exciting? This will be the first time that Buffalo has been in totality of a solar eclipse since January 24th of 1925. So this is all really great news for Buffalo. So a few years ago, we started looking at the opportunities around the eclipse because we knew this was big. We didn't actually know how big it was until we started doing some research in other destinations who have had this happen. Because again, we haven't had one here in Buffalo in nearly 100 years. But this is great news for us. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It also is challenging news for us as well because like I said, we've done some research on some white papers and looking at the other destinations, and we're going to have hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million people that will be coming into our region on top of a county that has almost 1 million people already here. So this is exciting for us, and we work with Smith Travel Research, who is the aggregator of hotel information across the country and around the world. And they even say there's really nothing for us to compare it to. This is truly a destination's Super Bowl, if you will. So this is our Super Bowl, everybody. To host a Super Bowl, not actually go to a Super Bowl, but this is hosting a Super Bowl in Buffalo because we're going to have thousands of people. Our hotels, our Airbnbs, VRBOs, they're all going to be sold out for multiple days. And this is just really exciting. And so in 2017, just to give you a little idea as well, and this is coming from Smith Travel as well, the largest city that totality experienced was Nashville, Tennessee. Behind that was St. Louis, Kansas City, Charleston, South Carolina, Casper, Wyoming, and Salem, Oregon. And their eclipse was actually shorter than what we're going to experience here in North America in 2024. But our cities, we have more larger cities. We've got Austin and Dallas, Texas. We have Indianapolis, Cleveland, Toronto, Montreal, and Buffalo is in the mix. In comparison to those other cities, we have just about 1,000 rooms less than Kansas City. So to give you some context as to how big this will be, because we know that people from around the world, across the country, this is a big event and they love to travel to experience a total solar eclipse. So we're really excited about the possibilities that this is going to bring. So we know that our hotels are at capacity. You've seen the stories about this. Our Airbnbs are filling up as well, and they're at a premium. There are some hotels that are charging $1,000 a night. We also know that people are coming for 3, maybe 5 days staying in our destination. So this is going to have a wonderful economic impact in our community, especially as what we would call a need period of time in Buffalo and Erie County. We're just kind of getting into that season of meetings and conventions that take place in the spring, leading up to our high season of the summer. So this is really happening at a perfect time. The other thing is, we didn't have to bid on this. This is just Mother Nature saying, here's a big event, take it and run with it. And I will say that our community has truly taken and ran with it. We have so many fantastic opportunities that our community and our partners have put together for our out-of-town visitors, our residents to experience before and after the total eclipse. So again, just to put a little bit more perspective on some of the economic impact of this, the average daily rate for April 7th, 8th, and 9th for 22 and 23, the average was 52%. The average daily rate on the hotel cost was $108. Last year, our average daily rate for the entire year was $133 for the entire year. So this is really going to far exceed those numbers. And we really won't be able to really assess those numbers until a few weeks after. So the media that's here, leave me alone a couple of days after the experience, because I'm not really gonna know, but we will be able to have a really good assessment following. So, but again, like I said, we're so excited at VBN because of the sessions that we've been putting out like this, talking to our overall community about how they can get involved, what kind of activations that they can put into place. And we do have some fantastic experiences for people. I do highly recommend that you go to the landing page at visitbuffaloniagara.com, and you can see all of the activities, the events leading up to the overall experience. So that's going to be fantastic. Now, on the challenges side of things, this is where it gets a little dicey, and why we are having this event today about the overall safety and the preparedness for our community. Again, lots of people. So what we read in, from 2017, and again, taking into thought that many of those were in smaller destinations. Oregon, as I was just told, that the state of Oregon, we have more people in Erie County than in the state of Oregon. So that's something to take into consideration. We also have probably a better road infrastructure as well, where in some of the cities, traffic just came to a complete and utter halt. And people were getting out of their cars to watch the eclipse, and that created a challenge. But when we started overall looking at this and reading some of these white papers and then seeing some of these challenges, we said we've got to engage with the county. They're obviously the individuals and the organizations who really need to be aware of this, and of course they did, because we've got a fantastic scientist, astronomer, and County Executive Poloncarz, who's really into this, and so he was aware that this was happening. But then also, bringing to their attention what's happened in some of these other communities. And so we're very fortunate that we do have a very engaged county who's involved with this, bringing in together all of the emergency preparedness services that we have in Erie County, talking to the state, talking to the municipalities, talking to our other regional partners as well. And so this is what this is all about today. It's really about your preparedness on the safety side of things. So again, like I said, we reached out to the county, got this all in place, and so what I'm really excited about now is to introduce our county executive. Now, this is a guy who really takes into account all of the safety precautions and health of our overall community as residents, as well as the people that come in. I mean, if you think about the snowstorms, the pandemic, he really puts us first and foremost, and I think that's really what makes him so successful, because he does care about the people that come into our county and the people that live here. And so, this is why this is important as well, because he brought together the people who are all going to keep our residents and our visitors safe on April 8th, as well as the days leading up to and following. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our County Executive, Mark Poloncarz.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to thank Visit Buffalo Niagara for the work that they've done in preparation for what will be an incredible experience, a celestial experience unlike any other on April 8th. The work has been going on not just for months, but a couple of years now. When it was actually 2-3 years ago, and we're sitting and looking and saying, yeah, this eclipse is going to hit Buffalo. This is something we need to be prepared for. And I'm very proud of the work that the team has done in Erie County, Visit Buffalo Niagara, and all our partners. And we're coming into crunch time. This is sort of the 2-minute warning period as we get to it. Yes, it's more than a month out, but there's a lot of work that's gone on from 2-3 years ago to this point, and now there's even more that's going to occur in the next few weeks. So I want to thank Visit Buffalo Niagara and their team, as well as the other teams that we work with in preparation for what will occur on April 8th. I just want to we have all the hospitality folks here, not all, but most, and we are looking forward to you all having an incredible experience. And you're going to be open, and you're going to be working with our visitors and our locals. To those that are not in the hospitality industry, I'm asking you to close the day of April 8th. Erie County government will be closed on April 8th. We want our residents to enjoy this experience, but we also understand how many people are coming to Erie County Niagara County and our region to enjoy what hopefully will be an incredible experience, as long as the weather is sunny like today. Gotta keep our fingers crossed. But because of many different factors, we're seeing, as Patrick noted, an influx of individuals that maybe some other major communities are not. Something that we hadn't thought about because of the time of year, but now with climate change is definitely becoming more an issue, is we're expecting a flotilla of boats on Lake Erie, which, and we're hearing they will be coming in from Cleveland, from Detroit. Now, if you get a bad windstorm in April, you don't really want to be on Lake Erie. So we have to work with our partners, of course, with the Coast Guard in preparation for that, but we are going to be ground zero. The city of Buffalo downtown is right in the middle of the totality, which means we are gonna have a lot of folks, not just from outside of Western New York coming here. While all of Erie County and Niagara County are in the totality, not all of Western New York is in the totality. So we expect folks from Allegheny County, Cattaraugus County, Steuben County, Livingston, further to the east to actually come to Buffalo or Rochester, because Rochester is also in the totality too. So think about it. Think about all these individuals coming into our community, and we don't know exactly when they're gonna come. Are they gonna come in the morning? Are they gonna try to come early in the afternoon? Is it a late arriving crowd? They wanna be there for the totality, which means they're probably gonna be stuck on the road somewhere, because we do expect traffic to stop. And that is going to cause a lot of issues, especially with the delivery of emergency services. You'll hear from very soon our deputy commissioners, one for emergency services, one for the Department of Health, responsible for disaster planning. That'd be Greg Butcher from Emergency Services, and and the ESU, our EMS system, Greg Gill from the Department of Health. One thing we've been getting a lot of requests of lately are organizations that are holding events that want to have paramedics, ambulances at the ready. There are so many of them that our community would not be able to provide them. Yesterday I was in Albany at a meeting in regards to emergency services, and one of the discussions was with regards to the Eclipse. As was noted by Patrick, New York State's involved. We are hoping that we're going to be able to get additional assistance, but there are so many events that are being scheduled. Not every event is going to get the coverage that it might normally get. So if you have not scheduled an event yet, and you put it out there that we're holding this party, we're holding this event, my statement to you is don't. Do not schedule an event at this point. I know you're thinking, ooh, we could have a big party. There are so many of them that are already scheduled, and there are so many people coming into town, it doesn't make sense. It really, as we're saying, we're closing Erie County government so that our employees can enjoy this. Why? Almost every school district that I know of will be closed the day of the event as well. So if you have children are gonna be home alone if parents have to go to work. Daycares, others, they're gonna be overrun. So we're asking businesses to close the day of the event. We are treating this in Erie County government as if it's a major snowstorm, a major blizzard, and we're just announcing that we're closed. Our offices are closed. Our employees will be on work from home status. And we're telling our employees, go out there, watch it with your children. To those that are running events, we are going to assist you as best as we possibly can, but we are very concerned about what normally just happens on any day. Car crash, heart attack, somebody falls, has a broken bone. They need to be taken to a hospital. We cannot provide ambulances and EMTs and paramedics to every event that we might normally would if there were a couple hundred people there, just to ensure that they're properly protected, because there are so many that have already been scheduled. So if you have not scheduled an event yet, don't. It makes our lives easier and make the community's lives easier. And you can still get out there and enjoy the eclipse. And the other thing is we still have eclipse classes available at our Museum of Science, as well as our libraries. We've had to order more, there's been such a demand, but we still have eclipse classes available. So if you go out there and say, hey, I'm gonna wear one of these, once again, don't. That'll be bad. You need one of these. And I think you all know that. But what we're starting to see is already these are being sold in supermarkets. There's mad rushes for these, and we know it's gonna happen in the final couple days. Everybody who's not gotten their eclipse classes is gonna want their pair of eclipse classes, and it's gonna be very difficult at that point to ensure that there will be classes available. They are still available. They're still available for our Museum of Science. They are still available through our libraries, though we suggest that before you go to your library, you call your library branch to make certain they have them in stock at that moment. Because while we are continually replenishing them, we want people to understand they can come in and get classes. We're asking businesses, don't go to the libraries and ask for 200 pairs for the event that you're having. Please, this is for our residents. We purchased it through money through Erie County for our residents so that they can enjoy the eclipse safely. Our goal is to ensure that each and every one of the individuals in our community has an opportunity to enjoy a once-in-a-lifetime event. We talk about things, you see the advertisements during the holidays, once-in-a-lifetime sale, which of course, the next time there's a holiday, once-in-a-lifetime sale. This is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I don't think any of us were around the last time there was a full eclipse. Don, I think we're that. Don Paul says he was. So I'll leave it up to him because he's going to have an opportunity to talk about his experience when he comes up on stage. Yes, but I just want everyone to know Erie County government, our divisions, especially our emergency service, Department of Public Works and Health, are standing by to ensure that this is a great and safe experience for us. We are concerned because of all the activities that will be held on that day, that if we are not prepared to handle it, it could not necessarily be safe. That's why we've been preparing for the worst. As we say in the emergency services field, you prepare for the worst, you hope for the best. We're hoping for a sunny day. We're preparing for the worst case scenario, which is a sunny day and bad things happening because of so many people in our community. I don't think a day like that will actually happen, but we are prepared for it. But I'm asking each and every one of you that are holding events yourselves and bringing people into this community, be prepared. Be prepared for an onslaught of individuals. Be prepared for things that we haven't dealt with in the past. And understand, if someone at your event has a heart attack, yes, you call 911. But if the streets are blocked, we're gonna have trouble getting there as quickly as we normally do. So we are preparing and going to be positioning equipment throughout the community as necessary. And this is not just a downtown Buffalo thing. The totality will be all of Erie County. So we're asking folks, if you are in Allegheny County, in Cattaraugus, Livingston, or coming from the Bradford area, you don't have to come to downtown Buffalo. You can come to other parts, our southern parts of Erie County, and see the eclipse just as well as you can from downtown Buffalo. Because we know if we get an additional 1 million people in our community, the impact that'll have, not just for the eclipse itself, but the hours beforehand and the hours afterwards. So we're asking everyone to be smart, be safe, and most importantly, let's hope for a very sunny day without any clouds so we can have an enjoyable experience. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, County Executive. Now we have several different speakers who are going to be talking about many different topics. First up is Leah Mueller, who is the Senior Director of Travel Industry Sales for Visit Buffalo Niagara. Leah has been working with so many of the tour operators who will be bringing group tours into our destination. I don't want to take away all of your speaking topics there, Leah, but Leah's been working on this for probably next to 2 years. And I know that many of you have been talking to Leah, giving her the different types of events and activities that the group tours can enjoy. Dorothy, I know that you've been on top of this for a very long time, and you sold out a long time ago at the Made of America store out in East Aurora. And again, this is how it's all going very far out, outside of just the city limits of Buffalo, out into all of the counties. So without further ado, Leah Mueller.
Good morning, everybody. It's so nice to see such a nice crowd here today to learn about the eclipse. And as already spoken, we're just thrilled and excited for the possibilities that are going to be coming with it in 38 days. So I will be talking a little bit about the impact of the motor coach groups coming into the region. Typically, leisure travelers follow an itinerary that's preset and travel together on a large motor coach that can accommodate up to 56 passengers. and we have been talking about the eclipse since before the pandemic. And in fact, I think my first booking came in 2019 or early 2020 for a group that really wanted to be sure they got their rooms, and they were aware how the rates will go up and wanted to be sure they were able to get their passengers here for the full totality. But basically, any groups that are coming into the region on a motor coach are booking 6 to 9 months on average, and even more so 12 to 24 months in advance of a visit. And the hotels have been great to work with for the eclipse this time around, and we've been trying to push them. Most of them have been sold out since, with their group blocks, since maybe last August or last September, of filling up any of the groups for the blocks that they have for large groups. For the groups we've been personally working with at VBN, we know of about 20 or so booked leisure full 56 passenger vehicles. I'm aware of many others that will also be coming into the region but have booked on their own without using our support system. And you have to also keep in mind, this doesn't include any of the local motor coach operators that we have within our region, within Buffalo and Erie County and even beyond. Also, sightseeing vehicles. We have also school buses that'll probably be getting private charter groups that are coming into the area for the event as well. So we're expecting a big influx of coaches. There also, just to give you a couple of highlights, we have quite a few coming in from Ohio, Illinois, Vermont. We even have one coming from North Carolina. So there's some good distances that people are traveling to get here. And quite a few from Pennsylvania. The ones that are coming from Pennsylvania or even from Western Ohio, or Eastern Ohio I should say, some of them are even just coming in as day trippers. So they're filling up their buses, they've got their plans made, and they'll be coming in for the day and then planning to drive home the same night. But I will tell you the majority are coming in for 2 to 4 nights, so we'll have the impact of them in the region for a good 3, 4, 5 days of not only coming in for the eclipse, but also going to many other restaurants, going to many other attractions, doing lots of other activities while they're in the area. One of the operators that I'm working with, they have booked 5 groups themselves, 5 motor coaches, and they're not all coming from the same place, so they're coming from different states and different areas. And I've been working with them particularly a little bit more than the others on a variety of details with their logistics and public parking. Motor coaches are about 45 feet in length, and in certain cases they'll do large movements together, meaning that 3, 4, 5 busloads are going to the same place at the same time. So there's a little bit of logistics involved with that, especially when it comes to dropping off safely, having the coach pull away, and then finding a place for them to park. So we've been working a lot on public parking and where the coaches can go to be in a safe location while the group's enjoying different activities. So many cases they're going to need to use city streets in the downtown core, and otherwise when they have the opportunity they'll use larger size parking lots too. The groups are staying in all parts of the county for their hotel accommodations. They'll be in the south towns, north towns, downtown, airport. They're kind of scattered around the region, which we did purposefully so that they're not all trying to park and in the same location at the same time. So I believe they're split nicely throughout the area. On the day of the eclipse, most of the tour groups have pre-booked far in advance their activities, and there's a few cluster areas of where the motor coaches will be, again, the ones that we're aware of. Some of the places are Grey Cliff in the South Towns, Old Fort Niagara, Made in America store, as you already heard, and we have some going to the Hofbrauhaus as well. So again, kind of split up, trying to keep them outside of the core on the day of, have them come into the downtown area on their off days to do other activities and enjoy what we have to see here, but again, during the actual eclipse, trying to keep them off the road and out of the downtown area. Many of the visitors, it's their first time coming to Buffalo, and it might be the first time that the coach company is also coming in. And I know we have excellent hospitality here in the Buffalo area, so I hope that if any of you see the motor coaches around town, you'll take a second to wave to the buses, give them a nice smile, and really help them understand the warm hospitality that we have in the Buffalo region. because we really want them to come back again. Motor coach operators have the opportunity to bring new passengers and new people on a regular basis. So that's one of the goals of this opportunity, is to have them understand that it is easy to get in and out. The hotels are easy to come in and come out, and it's the same thing for restaurants and activities. So again, we're especially hoping that you'll take a chance to say hello to the drivers. Sometimes drivers get overlooked, and they sometimes make a lot of the decisions. So they can say, I'm not going back there, it was difficult to get in and out. Or they can say, they treated me really nicely. So I'm just asking that you take a little extra time, if you have the chance, to see any of the drivers, to give them a little extra buffalo love, if you will, and show all of our warmth and hospitality. In addition to showing our groups a warm welcome when they come into town, we are also providing 5,000 visitor amenities to share with the hotels. These will have a comeback theme described with them. We'll be giving out a bag, visitor guide, commemorative magnet, and chocolates. And we will be offering these strictly to the hotels within Erie County. Later on in March, pretty soon actually, because March is tomorrow, you'll be getting contacted from one of my colleagues at VBN, where you'll be able to put in a request, if you're a hotelier, to receive the items, the amenities for your hotel, and then we'll be putting together a time where we'll be delivering them to your property. So once you decide you would like the amenity, you'll be allocated the same number of rooms that you have at your property, that number of amenities, and then the items will be delivered to you, and you'll have to actually put the bags together for distribution to your hotels. Now, we're saying it's for the number of rooms, not the number of guests you may have in your hotel on the day of the eclipse, so please keep that in mind when you're thinking about that. And they're really gonna probably go fast, because there are 5,000 of them only, and that we do certainly have more rooms than that in the county. So once they're spoken for, they'll be gone. So take the opportunity, once you receive the email from us, to get on board and get those, register for those. And once again, this is a really exciting opportunity for Buffalo to be in the public spotlight. Since it's the off season for us, it's one of our shoulder seasons. It's typically not a time we receive many motor coach groups in the region, so we're really looking forward to having them here at that time. And we're looking forward to working with all of you to be a great team for this opportunity. And hope everybody here will be a great ambassador for Buffalo during the eclipse and all year round, for that matter. So does anybody have any questions about the way the motor coach groups will be working? Excellent, I see none. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And our next speaker is our entertainment portion of the agenda. It is Don Paul, who is the former WIVB chief meteorologist, as well as a Buffalo News contributor. He's going to talk about cloud climatology, the fuzzy probabilities of good viewing conditions for the eclipse. And again, once Don is finished speaking, he will take some Q&A as well. So, all yours, sir.
Yes, I do wear glasses. And it's going to be hard for me to see the names of the clouds we're going to show you, but for those closer to my generation, there will not be a blue book exam. Just some basic principles. By the way, after listening to our county executive, I will be careful to take my rosuvastatin the night before. By the way, I am also Donald J. And I'm on the same damn statin drug and the same dosage as that guy. I think we can all remember that timeless photo from 2017 where you were standing on the White House portico. Our ophthalmologist will fill you in on the risks to that. But what I have seen on social media is a mix of optimism about cloud cover, not that much of it, and a whole lot of pessimism. And I am here to tell you it's not just clear versus cloudy. There are stages to overcast which could still result in fairly decent viewing opportunities. So let's get rid of that guy. These are fair weather cumulus clouds. And as you can see, they are capable of producing shadows, which could cause some brief interruptions. If we were unfortunate enough to have a bunch of those, of course, your viewing opportunity chances go down. But you still would be able to experience the dramatic darkening which occurs when there is fairly abundant sunshine. And that would also result in those dramatic temperature drop-offs which occur where you've had heating from the sun, and then all of a sudden that eclipse happens on you, and the temperature can drop by 10 to 15 degrees, which produces rapid cooling. That's denser, heavier air. It moves out like a gust front. And then animals, including especially birds, tend to behave as if the sun has set. So birds can return to roosting branches and stop chirping. People will not stop talking. I looked up research on that. But let's move on to the next type of cloud. This can be our worst enemy. This is stratus cloudiness. It is quite common to the Great Lakes, but I want to at least take us back to the beginning of this month. On February 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 3 mornings in a row, we had locally dense fog on the ground here and stratus clouds just above the fog. And that occurs most often when we have a warmer layer of air a few thousand feet up, which traps the cool, moist air near the surface. And trying to predict when that layer is going to allow enough mixing of the atmosphere for the clouds to break up is actually one of the toughest calls in meteorology. Now, live zone dependent, unless you're a general aviator and you're not instrument qualified and you're trying to land. But those 3 mornings I mentioned, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we had the fog, we had the low clouds. I was not working as a TV meteorologist, but on social media, like other meteorologists, I was forecasting gradual clearing by midday and early afternoon. And it worked out. But if you talk to a meteorologist at 7 a.m. on April 8th, and we were to have that, and ask, is it going to break up in time for the beginning of the partial eclipse? Name the hour. The models do that, but our brains and the models are not always working in tandem. That's a very tough call, but keeping in mind that the angle of the sun is lower in early February than it will be in early April, there is a climatological likelihood of better mixing in early April. So if all things else were equal, I would say we'd have a better chance of a breakup of stratus in a stagnant pattern like that on April 8th than we had on February 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Is that a 4-degree guarantee? But stratus is not always solid. We can have mixed clouds. We move on to the next one. And this is stratocumulus, also very common in the Great Lakes. And since the lake temperature right now, the Buffalo Lake temperature is at a record high of 36 degrees, and we're anticipating at least a warmer than average first half of March. Maybe not every single day, but we're not anticipating any days like today for some time to come. The lake temperature will probably be 38 or 39, maybe 40. And if we were to get an uncommon Arctic air mass with a west-southwest wind blowing over the lake, that would produce lake effect cloudiness, and it would be stratocumulus, and it would really tick us off. I had to clean that up. But it becomes climatologically less likely by April 8th than it is today. We're getting lake effect cloudiness today with a westerly wind. We've had snow. That also, of course, is climatologically less likely, but it is certainly not impossible. So with this kind of strato-Q, that's our slang phrase for it, there are at least breaks in the overcast rather than solid strato-Q. And that would be more likely than solid, but the difference is not that drastic. So we can lose our Super Bowl meteorologically if we get a solid, dense overcast. I'm not going to give you false promises that, oh, the odds are way against it. They are somewhat against it. Have I said something to offend? I usually do. So let's move on to the
May I
next
have your
one.
attention? May I have your attention? For anyone in the building, we have to test the fire alarm system. Please carry audio or visual devices. You do not have to leave the building. We are just testing the fire alarm system. Thank you.
This happens during my math discussions, whenever I fill in at Channel 4. Very embarrassing. Let's move to the next cloud. And this time, as you can see, has opportunities, but we'll still have some interruptions with altocumulus. And these are possible, certainly, but you can see for yourself, you'll still get a piece of the action. So again, as I said at the start, it's not cloudy versus sunny, it's how cloudy. We can have thin overcast, we'll move to the next cloud type, please. Or we can have, this would be the worst of all, nimbostratus, which typically produces rain or snow. That's a solid overcast associated with a low pressure system, and it can happen, but climatologically, it's certainly less than a 40 or 30% probability of us having a general area of low pressure on the day. It has happened. Last April 8th, had the eclipse occurred that day, it was terrific. The year before, bad news. So if you see that, you will not get a dramatic darkening because it's already going to be pretty damn dark. And the temperature drop off will be much less noticeable because the clouds block the insolation, not insulation, the sun's heating. So it would really diminish the impacts. There'll be some darkening, but it just isn't going to have the high drama of going from mostly sunny to dark. So we'll move to the next one, and in this cloud cover, take a look. See that disk? That is not total opacity. And that means you'll still be able to see the passage of the moon across the sun. Would you be able, with the proper protective glasses, which our ophthalmologists will talk about, be able to see the solar prominences around the corona? Probably not, no. So we lose that, but you will still have the spectacle of the darkening. A little less of a temperature drop off, but it will be more noticeable. So you see there are all these in-between states. Let's go to the next one, or I'm going to do just what I did for 30 years on Channel 4. Run over. I used to run into Van Miller's time. Here we're in pretty good shape. We've got cirrus, which are fibrous ice crystal clouds. They are not opaque, and they do allow, even if they briefly interrupt in slightly thicker sections, you to get a complete view of the disk. So again, they could interfere with viewing the prominences, but you might luck out and get the bluer part. And so this wouldn't even be close to a total loss. But if you had a day like that, we'd be in pretty good shape for near ideal viewing. And you'd still get the dramatic cooling. Let's move to the next one. This type, you can see, does present a little more in the way of blockage, but again, it's the opacity and the amount of cloud cover. And for some reason last week, the Washington Post actually interviewed me about cloud climatology. I can only tell you, I want to finish up here and take any questions. Cloud climatology is very imprecise. It's not like temperature, humidity, wind, precipitation observations, which are taken every hour. The National Weather Service used to put a percentage of possible sunshine for each day here at the Buffalo office. So if you had 13 hours of daylight, it would have how much sunshine do we have during those 13 hours. They don't do that anymore. It's fuzzy climatology. So if anyone tells you, oh, Buffalo's the cloudiest damn place, well, we are awfully cloudy from November to March climatologically, but the probabilities of more mixing in the atmosphere to punch holes in any clouds that are around improve as we get into early April. So again, my basic point on April 8th versus February 3rd, 4th, and 5th is the climatology is noticeably improved. It is not ideal. Late April would be better. I've made calls, I couldn't move it. So, when you see undue pessimism, I threw someone off my Twitter page, I refused to call it X the other day, for declaring the odds are overwhelming it will be overcast. Dink, whoever that was. So that happened to me, actually, a couple of times in my career. Any questions? None? run of this.
El Nino factors or La Nina, whatever we're in.
Well, we're in El Nino, it is past its peak, but it doesn't magically turn off. And actually, this strong El Nino we've experienced has resulted in the warmest climate, the warmest winter for the northern and central United States on record going back to the 1890s. It also produced a general snow drought in terms of coverage of ground for snow. And it reduces the chances of Arctic air dropping to more southerly latitudes. In January, we had a disrupted polar vortex, which I've written about a lot of times and going, what is he talking about? But we're less likely to experience that in early April than we are right now. So it will not have as much of an impact on us in early April as it did in January, which appears to be the cloudiest Buffalo month on record. And even though I said the climatology is very fuzzy, the Weather Service only recorded 2 days with visible sunshine at the airport in the entire month of January. As cloudy as we are, that's unusual. So if there are any others? Or? Yes.
Where exactly in the sky from downtown are we gonna see it at that time?
Well, it'll be a partial eclipse. It will be a little west of directly overhead. And then by the time we get to totality, it will be, if you look up in the sky today at 3 o'clock, you'll have a rough, and I think you'll be able to see the sun this afternoon. You'll have a pretty good idea of where the sun's going to be. Not precise, but you don't need to be precise. And yes, I've had people ask, what's a great place to watch? And the obvious answer is, if you can see the sky, you can see it. It's not like a meteor shower. You don't have to go up on the roof of your house, although it may need some maintenance. Anybody else? All right, thank you very much.
I told you that would be entertaining, and I think I retained and learned even more than I did in my freshman year of college when I took a weather class, so thank you so much for that. Our next speaker is Dr. James Reynolds, who is a professor and chair of ophthalmology at the University of Buffalo. He's going to talk about eye safety, and I think this is, again, important for our hospitality industry to be able to speak to this to your guests to make sure that they don't look up directly. But the eye safety is the process of the light damage to the retina, understanding the effects of the solar eclipse on your eyes, and how to stay safe during your viewing experience.
Thanks, it's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate the opportunity. I will not be as funny.
go ahead.
Well, let me advance here. So besides being an eye surgeon at the university, I'm also a researcher and a scientist and a teacher. So I'm going to fall into that teaching mode today, but I'm going to give you a little science besides a little ophthalmology. So obviously we're looking at the corona here. So I usually like to key off my slides, and I'm at the same disadvantage that Don was. It's hard for me to see the slide that's up. I actually am gonna, can I pull this mic out?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I don't need to stand behind that podium. I like walking around anyway. So, the physics of light, okay? So, this process is going to be both physiologic and physics, okay? So I'm going to teach a little physiology and a little physics. So we all know the physics of light, I think, right? It's wavelength and frequency. All light has that characteristic. And the electromagnetic spectrum, which is what we really should talk about, because light is just this tiny, tiny little part of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? Gamma waves are on the one side, and we all know that gamma waves could kill us very easily and quickly. And we all know that radio waves are harmless, right? I'm being bombarded right now by radio waves, and I am none the worse for it, okay? So the visible spectrum is this tiny little rainbow in the middle of that electromagnetic spectrum. And obviously there is energy with this, right? This is not rocket science. We sit in the sun, we get warm. The alligator goes up on the bank, the alligator gets warm. So obviously there's energy here. What about vision? Well, the eye exists really to support the photoreceptors. So there's the front of the eye, the back of the eye is the retina, and within the retina are the photoreceptors. The photoreceptors are the cell that transduces light energy into electrical energy. And then that electrical energy goes down the optic nerve to the brain, and we see. Don't think we see with our eyes, folks. We see with our brains, okay? The eyes are just an organ sending messages, and our brain is interpreting that in a very complex way. But those photoreceptors, and I think I have my pointer here, not very well. So the photoreceptors are at the end there. And light damage is not thermal. Light damage is photochemical. So extra light can definitely produce photochemical damage to the retina. So because my research involves oxygen, I wanted to at least put up this analogy, which is really, I enjoy this analogy a lot. We all are not surviving without oxygen. But I'll bet most of you don't know that you could also be severely damaged or killed by excessive oxygen. So oxygen is extremely toxic, as well as being necessary for life, okay? The same thing with light. We can't see without light, but light is definitely toxic to our retinas. And it's simply a matter of the amount, the intensity. And it's a simple formula. And that simple formula basically is how much energy is delivered to a spot, okay? And how long is that energy on that spot? And the groundbreaking research, I want to just mention that it was at UB in the 60s when the concept of light toxicity was investigated and elucidated. So that's a nice little part of Buffalo's history, that light toxicity really originated here. And we also found out when we operated that the microscope that we were looking at during surgery, that our microscope light was sometimes so intense, the slow surgeons, never changing the microscope, never moving the eye, hitting the same part of the retina consistently, we began to see light damage from the operating microscope. And we began to learn about that and adjust the filters on operating microscopes and come up with other recommendations, and that no longer happens for those of you who are going to have your cataracts done in the not too distant future. So how do we measure light? You can measure light in different ways, but you've seen photographers doing their light meter thing, right? They're measuring, and it reads out probably in lux. You can use foot candles, it's a 10-to-1 conversion. But I just want to put this in perspective now, okay? So we're sitting in what you think of as a bright room, right? Your eyes have probably got 400 lux on them right now, which is a nice amount of light you can read by even an old man like me. You probably can even read in this light. So, you know, this is well, I'm just taking after you, Doc, trying to put a little humor in this. But it's still, only the humor still involves you, so be happy about that. We'll do it without you. So these are just examples. I don't know if you can see them, but I think the clear-cut example is that these different magnitudes. So again, we're sitting at about 400 lux now. I don't think it's really 500. I don't think it's bright enough to be that much. So roughly 400 lux. the sunset is the same. So, right, we've all looked at the setting sun, right? And that setting sun is putting out about 400 lux. Well, what is the sun putting out at noon? Well, the sun putting out at noon is putting out, 130, 150,000 lux. That's significant order of magnitude higher. I really want you to appreciate this. Of all the physics we're going to talk about today, I think this is the comparison for you. This is the reason that the eclipse is going to be dangerous. 400 lux versus, well, at 3 p.m. it's not going to be the same as noon, but I think at 3 p.m. you can count on 120,000 lux for sure on a sunny day. There are natural Earth filters, okay? So we said gamma rays are coming out of the sun, but the Earth's atmosphere is filtering all that out. We're not seeing any of that hit the Earth, right? So this dangerous electromagnetic radiation is filtered out by the Earth's wonderful atmosphere. Clouds filter it. The time of day makes a difference. Noon versus 3 versus sunset, right? That all makes a difference. So again, we just had those numbers up. Here is the other significant scientific slide of the day. Even 10% of that light energy is still orders of magnitude above what this room is. So, be aware that that is out there. We have protective mechanisms. The biggest one is go out today. I did it on my way in. It was relatively early in the morning, but that sun was still pretty bright at 9 o'clock. And I gave it a quick glance, and you just can't help yourself. You just immediately look away. That's the aversion reflex, okay? And of course our eyelids, and then we have some repair mechanisms. We can tolerate a little photochemical damage and repair it. So what's the eclipse danger? Well, we lose that aversion reflex, despite still having a tremendous amount of energy entering our eyes. There's no pain associated with this. This is not a thermal injury. Ooh, that's hot, that hurt. Oh, this is a photochemical injury. You don't feel this. This is painless, insidious. And of course, if it's significant enough, it's not going to be repairable, and it's going to produce a scar. And there is our scar. So on the right side, your left side, on your left side of the screen is normal looking retina with a normal OCT, an optical coherence tomography scan, scanning the retina with a laser. And we come up with this scar, and you can see the scar in the fundus photo, the retina photo, and you can see the changes down there, and there's actually a hole in the retina as part of the repair process of this photochemical injury. So safety. And this is touchy, okay? This is touchy. This is, do you believe in the if it saves one life philosophy of safety, or are you more a risk tolerant person? So there's no right answer to this. So being no right answer and knowing the relative carelessness, shall we say, of the general public, foolishness. I mean, people are foolish, right? They jump off buildings with an umbrella. They do crazy things. Basically, my message is there is no tolerable exposure. So is there a safe window? Well, let's look at this. So there's no real margin of error here. That's my message.
Acceptable.
There is no safe viewing of the sun with the naked eye. There is no safe viewing of the sun with the naked eye. Boom. This is the key, okay, the totality exception. So the totality exception is those 3 minutes when the sun is completely blotted out by the moon and there is no sun showing, there is only corona showing. For that moment, you are not going to receive all that energy. The corona is orders of magnitude hotter. You know the burning question in solar physics? Why is the corona thousands of degrees warmer than the surface of the sun? It's it seems to violate the second law of thermodynamics for those of you who know the laws of thermodynamics. But that's a burning question. That I just wanted to get that out there because I find that to be a really interesting question myself. Why as you get more distant from the sun does it get hotter? That shouldn't work, right? It just shouldn't work. But it does, and it's a burning question. But it's hotter, but what comes out of heat? Infrared, not light, not this light energy. So you have those 3 minutes. Listen, do not take those glasses off for 3 minutes and 20 seconds and look at that totality, okay? It's a little too touchy. Give yourself that window. Think of it as I have a 2-minute window. Ordinary sunglasses, the county executive already showed you that. I cannot stress this enough. Ordinary sunglasses, no matter how dense they are not enough, not even close to enough, okay? And children, I'm a little disappointed schools are closing. Because that means every child is in the care of their parent right now. And the parents will be home, hopefully, because they'll follow the county executive rule and they won't be working, they'll be home so that there won't be unsupervised children out there. But I put one of these pediatric glasses on my 3.5-year-old grandson the other day, and it was ludicrous. I mean, there was just no way. I don't think there's any preschool child who can safely view this eclipse. I don't think they'll keep the glasses on. I don't think that they'll have any sense of their own safety or non-safety. I mean, everybody has to decide this, right? For my own grandchildren, I'm very touchy about it. And I expect to be right there with them when this happens. And I'm still nervous about children. So I think what you all are doing, and this is my message, that you should have organized activities at your hotels and places for tourists. And those activities, you know, you're going to say, okay, put your glasses on now. All right, we're all going to take a look now. And you're going to, you know, time this, okay, we're going to look away now. Now you can take off your, you know, you've got to orchestrate this or at least script it well ahead of time. Because people will be foolish. They will not think about this. And my guess is very few of you have thought about what am I doing with that 2-year-old. So, you know, it's school would be the perfect place, right? It's like they go out for a fire drill, they all go out, the teacher's right there, boom, 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 we're gonna do this, we do that, it works great, everybody sees it. So be careful with children. Obviously, this protective eyewear has to be specific. An easy way for you to test, and remember these COVID masks that were sold that really weren't N95s? So the same thing will happen here, okay? I can guarantee you that some glasses for sale will not have the right filters in them. But a cheap way to do that is put the glasses on in this light, you should see absolutely nothing. I look at Don, I should not be able to see him. I look directly at that light, I should not be able to see that light. So you're going to be effectively blind when you put these on. And again, you have to prepare for that, right? And think about you, Don. I'm sure when you put these glasses on, you're going to want to have one hand on a little support here so you don't go tumbling over. Even now. I get that, even now. So, last thing I want to mention, telescopes. Oh my gosh. Talk about a horrible high risk. Telescopes are going to concentrate light, right? If you've ever looked at the full moon through a telescope, whoa, it just shocks you, right? You pull back. It is so bright. because it's concentrating all that light. So a telescope, and you cannot put those little glasses on and view through the telescope. They are not good enough. Eclipse glasses will not protect you through a telescope light access. So the telescope would have to be fitted. If you want to look through a telescope, my guess is Buffalo Museum of Science is going to have some great. They're not. You're shaking your head. No, you're not allowing that at all.
We're closed that day.
You're closed that day. You're not having events for. Oh, I was hoping you would.
But you can enjoy it with your friends and family.
I was hoping you'd have an event for children. So so questions?
Doctor, just to put it on the record here, the cloud cover that Don had talked about offers no protection to the UV coming from the sun during the eclipse. So when people see an overcast day, they can't just assume that they have to protect them from the cloud cover.
What? Well, again, you know, this is a question where what way do I want to answer? So I cover every base, and what way do I want to answer with actual real science? So there's no question that cloud cover reduces the light intensity from the sun, and no question it therefore reduces the energy. But I would have to see the curves to actually, if I was looking at all those cloud formations, right, I would have to see the transmission curves and see the percentage that the clouds knock down to actually give you an answer. This is why science is so hard to translate for many people, right? Because there's no single answer, it's nuance. And there's so much nuance to science. And this is why somebody like Dr. Fauci stands up and doesn't give you nuance about the pandemic. He gives you just do it like this, right? It's because people have a hard time with nuance. But that's a very nuanced question, and I hope my answer was.
Probably why I felt science.
I would say if you can see the disk at all, you're not getting adequate protection.
I think that's good.
If you have that dense nimbostratus, you're gonna have trouble figuring out where the sun is, because you won't be able to see the disk. You'll just be looking at a lot of dark gray. But other than that, every slide that I showed you afforded enough visibility, and I don't know what factor UV also plays in this, but if you can see the sun at all, assume the worst.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I again, if it saves just one retina, right? So, yeah, I think you have to center your programs and your advice on being ultra cautious. I'm not that kind of guy. I should have said this in the very beginning. You know, my bias is I'm very much a risk taker. I've done many things in my life that were very high risk and enjoyed them, and mostly come out on the other side in shape. But this is not a talk for risk takers, right? This is a talk for better safe than sorry, I think. And I use that word in clinic all the time. You know, this is a better safe than sorry thing we're doing, and people understand that. It's a phrase that I find every mother understands. And so I urge you to open with that when you're doing your instructions at your sites. You know, our goal is to enjoy this, but better safe than sorry. So we're going to enjoy it in a very scripted, safe way.
One possible way to do it is with your cell phone, where you're not looking directly at the sun. As long as you keep your eye on the screen, you don't have a chance of burning out your cell phone sensor. You don't have to worry about that.
So there are definitely indirect ways, and I didn't really go into those. I assume schools are going to teach those indirect ways to the kids.
That is what the Buffalo Museum of Science is especially focusing on for the children, especially our youngest visitors.
Yeah.
It's much easier to get a 2-year-old to look at a
Exactly.
screen.
Exactly.
Or pinhole viewer than.
Exactly. So children really, and again, pre-K children, as I said, I don't think pre-K children should be encouraged to do any direct viewing, even during those 3 minutes of totality. I think they should be doing indirect viewing, supervised indirect viewing. All right, this was a lot of fun for me. Thanks, folks.
Well, that was a lot of fun for all of us, and I think you and Don need to go on the road and do a little show here. Our next speaker is Greg Butcher, who is the Erie County Deputy Commissioner of Homeland Security. He's going to be talking about the overall emergency preparedness plans for the county, traffic management updates, accommodation for large group crowds, and public spaces. So, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to try and keep this here, but I'm probably going to walk around just like everyone else. I'll give up now.
That was quick.
Sometimes you just have to give up. I need to see my screen as well. So there's a couple of things that when we started this whole process, we started to look at how it's going to affect everyone, particularly in not only Erie County but in the region. Erie County is one of the leading groups when it comes to managing these events across Western New York. There's a 10-county Western District. So we partnered with the state as well as that Western District to work on things that we believe could support all of the things that you all are going to do when it comes to this event. Again, it's a considerably large event, in particular to hit our area. So we wanted to do the best we could to address any of those things that occur. As the county executive pointed out, we have had so many events. Many of them that come to everyone's mind are the snow events, which have impacted us drastically. This, I think, is going to be very large, but probably to a different degree in how it's going to impact everyone in Western New York. And in particular, there are some great opportunities here for all of us as a whole. So the collaborative working relationships that I have with all of the first responders, and my counterpart who's going to step up here shortly to talk about the medical component of this whole thing, we have put together a very robust group. You may have heard the term ICS, or Incident Command. Some of you in here obviously come from the world I work in every day, so you understand the reason why we're using this model to help us facilitate any of those particular unknown things that may occur. So as we often say, we are planning for the worst and hoping for the best. But when we do that, we truly do need to prepare. This is obviously something that's going to be viewed regionally, which impacts how we can get additional resources and assets to help us in the event we may need them. Not that we will, but we may. You've heard some people talk about the sheer numbers of people potentially doubling the population of Erie County. While we have a rather robust road system with a very large amount of primary, secondary, and tertiary roadways that can facilitate an incredible movement of people, we look at the Bills game as an example that shows there is still going to be backups and incredible congestion. That will also indicate things occurring outside of the norm because of the sheer number of people. So with that being said, we put a planning group together. We spoke here, and I can't remember, it was well greater than a year ago. And we did a similar presentation. Obviously, a lot more has occurred. I had a partner up here with me who's supposed to be here today, but he is at another event going on because there is so much as we get closer and closer to the day of totality that we're all addressing all of the nuances that are coming up. As a matter of fact, we had a 3.5 hour planning presentation yesterday with a very large number of partners. Not quite 100, but quite a few people in the room, almost. It was in the close to 90, related to all of the different disciplines that are gonna benefit us. And I probably am not giving enough justice to the number of, I throw logos up just so that I can be able to talk about the impacts and the different disciplines and different agencies that are truly an integral part of what's going to happen every day that the average person has no idea is going on. So some of those things that we talk about addressing on the public safety side, there's going to be an incredible impact, basically, for the sheer reason of population increase. And with that being said, as we get additional calls for service, that will require us to be able to have good mobility with our particular disciplines, resources and assets, and them moving around. Well, our partners in the public safety field are going to be integral in helping us make those movements. As we talked about with the sheer number of people, we have reviewed an incredible number of after action reports and also attended some seminars with people that were in the 2017 solar eclipse that helped us formulate ideas and plans that may hit us and impact this area in general. And a lot of those things, clearly, as you can imagine, relate to traffic. But there are those other things such as medical needs. When the population increases, it doesn't stop people from falling down, breaking limbs, or having heart attacks. There are those things that happen in society every day that we don't know about. Well, that increases the burden on the capacities that we're able to handle regionally. And again, this is a regional event, which now takes away our ability to send and utilize and bring in these resources from across the region. So it has pushed us in the planning aspect to talk about different things like communications. It is clearly one of the largest things related to this area. We have a rather robust group of responders that not only answer 911, but handle our radio communications on all the different disciplines. We've had the opportunity to work on our redundancies here in Erie County. Now, as the county executive pointed out, we've had our share of events over the years, which has caused us to really evaluate these things and make sure that we have things in place. So one of the biggest things we have is redundancy. Redundancy is incredibly important to us, as it is to everyone in general. But we have afforded a great opportunity to utilize things called backups. So not only do we have a primary 911 answering point here in Erie County, but we have a backup answering point. So on this day of totality, we will be activating our Emergency Operations Center, and we will also be, in slang terms, spinning up additional seats or additional cubicle and workstations to facilitate the need for potential increase in 911 calls and radio communication stations. So we have that ability. We will be utilizing them and activating them along with all of our partners, and we are going to be upstaffing in the communications world to be able to help us address any of those calls for service that may come across. Additionally, the federal government is very engaged in something that has disappeared over the years, which is, you may or may not have heard the term RACES, ARES, and now the new term is AUXCOM. And it's an ability for a group of individuals who primarily are volunteers to facilitate communication of not only voice, but data over the airwave, shortwave radio type of transmissions. It's highly utilized by the US military today, and the fact that FEMA is endorsing it and pushing it, we have been engaging them over the more recent days. I would say a year, we've heavily engaged them to get more involved. And in particular, we're going to be able to put these people to work to test our system regionally. Primarily, Erie and Monroe are the big brothers in the Western New York region, and we will be facilitating the most activity, but we are going to partner with the remaining 10 counties within that regional operations group, and they're going to activate people to also test these abilities for us. And we're finding that the potential does exist, that if our communication system, two-way and microwave, is impacted, these people provide us with a quick, easy opportunity to ensure that we can still communicate on those very critical and important incidents. So to move on, we talked about how big traffic was going to be and how that's going to affect the transportation system in Western New York. This is actually the meeting that I am not at today to make sure I could speak to you. There is a rather large group that is meeting today to finalize several plans across Western New York. And it may be far more dynamic than the average person thinks. Sure, the goal is to keep the roads open. That's huge because that facilitates the ingress or coming in of all the people in the area, which we don't see an issue because, as has been pointed out, this is going to occur on a Monday. We're obviously going to see people, and we hope far more people, to come to our area to patronize Western New York earlier on, say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and continue to stay here. With that being said, we then get very concerned about the egress leaving the area. Like, we really hope everyone doesn't say, okay, it's over, goodbye, because that's going to pose a huge problem for everyone. So that's why we're meeting to plan. In particular, NITEC, who is supported by the DOT. It's something it is very unique to Western New York. They don't have that across the rest of the state. It's a partnership, and they talk about transportation in general, and it covers the Niagara region, including our friends across the border in Canada who we work with on this, because there will be a considerable amount of cross-border traffic that occurs. A lot of people, my counterparts across the border, have stated that there is a considerable influx expected for people to come from other parts of Canada over here to the Western New York area, which is awesome for us. I think it's great, and it just will continue to add more people. With that being said, part of that traffic plan addresses all of those primary roads and the secondary roads and their impacts. I can tell you, we've heard some rumors, but there is no intent of closing any roadways. I attended a meeting and someone said, yeah, I heard that the interstate was gonna close, the 90 and the 290, and absolutely not. And I can tell you, I meet with them at least 2 times a week over the last 2 months based on just this particular incident and how that's going to affect Western New York. So that robust plan talks about the need for potential closures, because we have a plan that they don't have anywhere else in the state of New York. Which if you go onto the exit ramps, you'll see gates. And some of them look different. Some are what they refer to as cattle gates, and some are swing gates. This is an opportunity and an idea that was pushed here in Western New York, and it covers all of our primary roads, the 90, the 190, the 290, the 990, Route 5 in certain sections only, and primarily the 400 and 219, and not that it affects anyone here, but I-86 is also part of our area. That has proven to be an incredible tool and a plan that we review every year in the fall that is utilized again primarily during the winter months, which impact us. So that's an opportunity where if something tragic is to happen on the roadway, we will be able to facilitate the detouring and movement of people in different directions. We have already set up at least 4 primary detour routes across Western New York. We don't want to put those out to the general public at this point, because we also want to be able to utilize them in a just-in-time fashion in the event that something occurs. But with that being said, we've also put in place some task forces. There may be a need due to some of the after actions that we not only read but heard from several states that incurred issues in the 2017 solar eclipse related to people potentially stopping right where they were on the side of the road. We hope they would be off the roadway and out of danger, but that does exist a potential that people may stop at that moment of totality with that sudden darkness that might occur. So we have put in place towing task forces across this area, and that is more of a regional plan because it includes our partners in Niagara, which we refer to this as the BEN, the Buffalo Erie Niagara region. We often still work together in and out every day and in planning and all those different avenues that benefit us in our world every day. But that's part of our group for this task force for towing. So we're addressing all of those needs that might concern the public. So as we move forward, part of that plan engages messaging. And there are different groups of message boards, the ones on the interstate, the thruway, the 90 you may see. Well, that may be different than the message boards on the 290 and say the 400 or the 219 where they're more mobile boards. Well, for this event and how it's going to be in the region, there's a collaborative effort to bring all of those groups together from the different agencies at the state, the county, and the local level where they may have these message boards. And we have already predetermined messaging on the terms expect delays, plan ahead. All of those different messages are prepared to go out in general around that time, starting over the weekend, in anticipation of large numbers of people coming to the area. I, in my world, wish we did have a definitive number of how many people were coming. It would make the planning portion easier. Unfortunately, we don't, and we're hoping for the best. So part of this plan involves the NFTA. And the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority is an integral piece of how this is going to happen, particularly when it comes to the downtown area. Not that it isn't going to affect other areas, but downtown, for the movement of people. They have assured us that their bus system will be fully operational with their normal Monday through Friday schedule on the day of totality and through the weekend to ensure the movement of the visitors that come to Western New York. That's huge to all of us to know that that movement is going to occur. With that being said, there is a plan that if anyone were to ask and you feel like passing this information on, that at the moment it starts to get dark for a period of time, which won't be too long, these buses will pull over and they will find bus turnarounds, transient stations where they often do their interchanges or bus exchanges. They will be pulling over for that period of time, 5 to 10 minute window, as the darkness starts to approach. And they're doing that for safety reasons. Not that they're going to stop bus service, but it's for safety reasons. Their board met and their operations group asked about the importance of it, especially with people getting on and getting off of buses, people with access and functional needs concerns. So these buses will be pulling over during that period of darkness. Now on the other side of that transportation piece, there's the rail. That rail they expect to be heavily used, and that is going to continue also on its regular scheduled Monday hours through the weekend to facilitate movement of people in the downtown area. That rail will not stop during darkness. That will continue. They're going to have several of their transit police officers in and around some of those crossovers, different roadways in the downtown area where there are above ground crossings, and they're going to potentially, there could be safety issues and concerns. So the transit police will have people, they've assured us that we'll have people looking out for that particular safety. Now on to the airport and aviation. So we, at our planning session, had an eye-opener yesterday as to the impact it's going to have on aviation in the area. They have, we have to remember there's two things occurring. Not only is this incredible once-in-a-lifetime celestial event coming to Western New York, but it's the end of spring break. Their parking lots are full, and they will be full on the day of totality because of the number of scheduled flights that come in. So not only the NFTA, but the air traffic controllers were at our planning meeting, and there were a couple of interesting things that came up, and it had a lot to do with the flights, how they're going to be impacted, potential delays. Because remember, when we talk about Buffalo, we're not just talking about Buffalo. The NFTA encompasses Niagara Falls Airport, which also has flights. Nowhere near to the capacity or numbers that they're going to be here, but it's still an airport with impact and flights landing and delays based on that totality and any other weather-related impacts that may stop some things. There is a very large potential that the airport may close for a short window of time, and they use that word very loosely in the sense of closing. It just means delaying flights if that occurs. Those things won't be determined until a just-in-time, we refer to, day of event, where they may have to do some delays. But they are analyzing this on a regular basis, not only with the members of the Transportation Authority, but also the federal government, in particular, the air traffic controllers are heavily engaged in this process. Then we move on to the border. The border, again, we had at our planning meeting members from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Group, our partners that they're working with on the Canadian side, CBSA, Custom and Border Services agents. They're the same group, just their side. They couldn't make this meeting, but they've been at previous meetings that we've heard in smaller settings, and they are prepared. They're going to have additional booths open to facilitate what they hope to be a much smoother transition crossing the border for individuals coming in and out. They're providing us with some additional resources if in fact we get to the point where we need additional people. They can provide that for us. They're a great working partner, and we don't really see any issues moving forward with the border, just that they're in tune with us and with the EOC, where they're going to be relaying information in the event that something occurs, because they will be opening up their operations center as well, which benefits them as well as us. So I have this screen up here. Obviously, I've done my share of these related to the Eclipse, but my partner is here from the EMS division, and Greg Gill has a whole host of things he's going to talk to you about. So I'm going to pass this slide and move on. So we get to the emergency management coordination piece. As I mentioned earlier, we have a very robust regional approach. And with that being said, we meet regularly to discuss this particular topic, and we also have, as a matter of fact, today I have another meeting with the state, and it covers all of the counties, in particular 29 of them that are going to be impacted by totality in some form, fashion, or degree, in which they're going to see an increase of population and effects in their areas. So we meet regularly to talk about it, but the entire western region works with our state partners, the Office of Emergency Management, regularly to discuss this. We each have our own plans. There will be emergency operation centers, or EOCs, open in each one of these counties. Here in Erie County, we work as what's referred to as a MAC, a multi-agency coordination center. So we'll be coordinating all of the different agencies. Now, in addition to that, in this area, we are going to see what's called a ROC, a Regional Operations Center, set up to support all of the counties in this area that are going to be covered. This will be in effect to have state representatives here that would not normally be here on a daily basis. It's to bring them all, the players, into one room so that in the event we get beyond the capacity to handle things. I feel that that is far much less likely here in Erie County. We are very fortunate to have a very large amount of capacity. As one of the, as I said earlier, big brothers, Erie and Monroe have a tendency to support the smaller counties around us. It's kind of something that's been that way forever, and it will continue to be that way. I know we have the blessing of the county executive. He's very supportive of this, having been through so many disaster-related events. We have come to the aid of our friends in neighboring counties on a regular basis, and we're happy to do so. But with that being said, some of these things in these smaller counties may need to go there to be utilized, so the state can be able to facilitate that, because we obviously will be at our capacity as we move forward on this. And we want to make sure everyone understands that it's not something that's just occurring here. There's a working relationship that's across all the borders. So before I ended, I wanted to throw this slide up. You know, future solar eclipses. 2024, our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I found this so intriguing and so interesting. If you look at the future dates, we, in our lives, will probably never see another one here. Why I'm hoping, in Don Paul's words, we have a great sky day. But I have to tell you, this is a great opportunity for all of us. So from my piece of the pie, we're working diligently and hard every day to ensure the safety of everyone around here. And I hope that all of you get the most out of this that you can to benefit not only Buffalo and Erie County, but the entire region. And that's where we have it. If you have any questions. Anyone have a question? Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned a normal bus schedule. Does that include paratransit and disability services?
The question was the bus schedule that I mentioned from our planning meeting. I have had the opportunity to meet with the NFTA in general, and they are assuring us that everything, including the paratransit, will be available and will be running on its heaviest schedule, which is a weekday schedule, through and including the weekend to support the influx of people. And that was included. It was mentioned. I just didn't touch on that particular piece of it. Anything else? Thank you all very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I had another one. Sorry.
I know there's gonna be no road closures, but is there any, like, driving ban or driving advisory for the time? No?
So, driving bans and driving advisory is incredibly different. It's funny, my boss sitting up here just had to go back through his required state statutory training with regard to that. Unfortunately, he has a lot on his shoulders, more than the average person would think, other than running county government. To be able to close a roadway down, there are only certain people that can do that and have the statutory authority. And it requires the enacting of provisions within the state's executive law. I would have to ask him if we needed a roadway closed. We do not anticipate that, but the county executive, and I don't mean to speak for him, he is always prepared in the event that that needs to happen. But at this time, we are not anticipating that unless something very critical and dangerous occurs. And the likelihood is much lower and less with this event than it would be, say, in a regional weather event that impacts actual ability to drive versus just sheer congestion. Now, will there be an advisory for driving? I can't say that for sure. We're still a month out, and we'll be meeting with the county executive regularly between now and the day of totality. But an advisory is something that is able to be put out on a regular basis without any statutory implications that require the filing of documents and whatnot. Yes?
I have a question, and it kind of dovetails on what the ophthalmologist had said and what you're saying about public safety. Those of us who are hosting general public events at our locations, the ophthalmologist said we really should be the ones that suggest to people to only take their glasses off for that about 2-minute period that would be considered super safe. Should we be concerned about liability exposure? I'm with the Native American store, there's Hofbrau House, there's Knox Farm State Park. We can't control adults not doing the right thing.
This is where I would look over to the law department, who's not here. But in reality, I think the county executive, who does happen to be a lawyer, is gonna say a couple words.
I'm just the cop in the room.
Yes. If you're holding an event, you're providing the glasses, you're saying it's safe to do it. The one thing about the glasses, they're always recommending, the ophthalmologist still here, test beforehand. I've actually tested, you can use these right today and look at the sun. Oh yeah, all you see is the sun. But if there's a pinhole, tiny pinhole, the light can still get in and burn out someone's eyes, so you gotta be careful. Anytime you, like, as an attorney speaking, anytime you invite somebody to your premises for an event, you are inviting everything that comes with it. If somebody has if they got the glasses on and they're walking and they hit a crack and fall and break their arm, they can sue you. So you gotta be careful if you're inviting them to the event, especially if you charge.
No, we're not, there's no charge, and we're asking everyone to bring their own glasses.
I would make certain that your insurance liability is up to date.
Great, thank you. Next question. So, go ahead, sir.
Just curiosity, is this being planned just like any other level 1 ICS type event?
I would say this is actually a modified event. So we will be activating the EOC, and we have levels. Someone asked at what level event that this is going to be occurred at. We have 3, 2, and 1, 1 being the greatest, largest impact, the most number of seats filled in the EOC to impact things. This will be a level 2 based on disciplines, so only certain disciplines will be there. We will be engaged. We're not sure yet whether our policy group will be actually in person or via phone, but we are at least at a level 2, but the number of people in the EOC will be greater per discipline. So it will look almost like a level 1. We'll probably all be in the same room instead of in different rooms. Planning will have already occurred, so we won't be opening a planning section in another room. We will obviously be managing logistics slightly differently based on the fact that the impact of potential for what we refer to as TIM responses, traffic incident management, to support the potentials that occur. We're going to be partnering with our friends in the Department of Public Works in the county, along with working with the state DOT and the Thruway Authority and all of the locals in regard to the potential for needing to deploy those assets. So it's almost a loaded question. It'll look like a 1, but in reality, on paper, as a purist, it's going to not be a 1. It'll be a 2, and it will have just a heavier representation to each discipline that's been activated. If that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
I have a question about cell service during this time.
Ooh.
Be able to make phone calls?
So the question is about cell service and how that's going to impact the area. So we've had a lot of discussions with the 2 primary providers in Western New York. One being Verizon, who's the grandfather of cellular in the area. And their infrastructure has some issues these days. At least that's the way it looks to us, because we're having a lot of issues, say at a Bills game where there is an exorbitant amount of people. And then there's AT&T, and AT&T, while they're not as large as Verizon, they have a little bit of a different scenario because they also represent FirstNet, which is a government-driven phone cellular service, particularly aimed at the first response world and our abilities not to be bumped off of those particular wavelengths for receiving cell service. In addition, there's other avenues as well, as like a Gets card, which gets you access to the first abilities to be on cellular. So to answer your question, to back up and go back to will there be an impact? We do believe there will be. Wasn't something I really was going to mention today, but you brought it up, so we'll talk briefly about it. In particular, Verizon has agreed to bring in cows for the area because of what's happened. And by the way, a cow is a cellular on wheels. Just so we get that close. Our rural areas of the county are going to be like, why would I bring a cow downtown? But it's
Emergency service is the master of acronyms.
we get yelled at all the time. Don't make me a message and put an acronym in there. So cellular on wheels, often referred to as a cow, at a normal Bills game day, for an example, which brings in, well in excess of 100,000 people to the stadium. You may only hear of the numbers of people in seats, but there are tens of thousands of people still remaining during game time outside. So that impact is well over 100,000 people. And the Verizon has gotten to the point where they've had to bring in 2 cows to support the data and cellular needs of that. We are going to see cows brought into the area, particularly by Verizon, to cover those impacts. They'll be moved closer to the metro area by sheer numbers, but additionally they're also supporting other things in the region up in Niagara where NASA will be hosting. There'll be cows there. On the AT&T side, the other big cellular component here locally, they have something much larger than a cow, and boss, I don't know the acronym for it, but it's a tractor trailer that provides additional services, and it is partially related to AT&T and partially part of their FirstNet network. But it'll still support all of the other cellular communications in the same concept. So those 2 will be bringing them in, and all of the other providers, their systems work together and they're redundant, so everyone gets onto the same tower. So the benefit will benefit all of those cellular providers, but the two larger companies, Verizon and AT&T, will be bringing in those resources to help facilitate the increased need in communications in the area. Ever since moving to 5G in this area, our infrastructure may not have been as robust as they had hoped or as it is in other regions of the country. So you may have seen some cellular issues. Every once in a while your phone will go into SOS if you're a Verizon person, and it has to do a lot with the 5G. They have given us some tips and little cheat methods to go into your cellular and change it back to LTE. That might benefit you with getting a piece of cellular to make a call in the event that occurs. Please don't hold me to that. Those are just suggestions that they've made from the cellular companies. But we hope not to see anything major in impact because they're going to address that issue and bring in additional resources and assets to facilitate that increased call volume. Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Appreciate being here.
And our final speaker is Greg Gill, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Medical Services. He's going to be speaking on the importance of first aid, training kits, CPR, and AEDS.
Thanks so much. I don't have any good acronyms, but I do want to say that every time I come to something like this, I learn something. I want to thank the county executive for giving me the quick day off. I have witnesses here.
We are activating the EOC.
Right. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about emergency medical services. I've been in emergency medical services since Don Paul here was just dreaming about, clouds and stuff like that. And I want to thank him for all the help with weather and stuff like that. He's helped us through disasters many times. So we appreciate that. But a little bit about what EMS is. And just to give you a little background, EMS encompasses, this is just for Erie County, we have about 96 fire companies out there that have combination paid volunteer or combination paid volunteer. And they're responsible to respond to any kind of emergencies within the county. There's 12 hospitals, including a pediatric level 1 trauma and a veterans hospital that we're able to access. One of the issues that we've had from EMS is that the hospitals are more centrally located in the city of Buffalo. And we don't have too many resources out in the rural areas, in the suburban areas. So that requires us to go further distances, we'll talk about in a little while. There's 35 basic life support, non-transport agencies, which means the service has people that are certified as EMTs, but don't have the ability to take a patient to hospital. They can just respond and give on-scene care. There's 22 basic life support transporting agencies. That's an agency that's able to transport with the ambulance to hospital and take care of patients throughout the transition to the hospital. There's 12 advanced life support transport agencies, 23 paramedic transport agencies that are able to transport, and then there's 75 registered ambulances that are out there in one way or another, which are volunteers. But that doesn't include the large commercial services. We have all these ambulances, but the problem that we're having right now is manpower and trying to get enough staff to staff the ambulances. So we're constantly in a kind of a catch-up phase trying to get enough resources to the area. So of course, this is what keeps me up at night. I'm 37, all right? All right. I'm serious.
You work too hard.
And that's what keeps us up. And so I'll just have a cheap plug here. Anybody that's interested in helping us in the field, or know somebody that might want to help out in the emergency medical field, please contact me. We'll get you trained for free and get you out there helping. So that's just
But you will look like him when you're 37.
Right, I understand I work here. I do the jokes now. And my last slide will be announcing my retirement. So, let's get serious. This is nerve-wracking stuff. Just how do the ambulances get there? So everybody knows about 911 and the way to access 911 to get ambulance service, fire department response. We do have a number of PSAPs, and that's our fancy, nothing like a cow, all right? But it's our fancy thing for public service answering point. And that's who you call. When you dial 911, it goes to those operators. Anything from a cell phone will go through Erie County, and then we distribute it to the local resources, because there are 21 of them out there. So right now, I'm concerned because we need a way to coordinate all these resources. You know, if something happens, it's not just gonna happen in the city of Buffalo. It's not gonna happen just in Amherst, it's gonna affect the whole area. So our big thing is to make sure that we can coordinate all the communication that's out there so that Springville knows that something's happened in Buffalo, Buffalo knows something's happening in Springville. We have a dispatch center, we call it ADI MERS. And they're located at the public safety building downtown. And what they do is they oversee the ambulance calls in the city of Buffalo. They do some 60,000 calls a year, 66,000 calls a year, depending on volume. And they coordinate the dispatch of the ambulances with the fire department and get them to the scene, and then they coordinate the transport to the hospital, any communication that might be necessary there. And they're a good bunch of people, and one of the things that we're gonna do in preparation for the upcoming eclipse is we're gonna add staff, because we know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a lot of incoming calls that people are gonna have answers to, what to do, what hospital to go to. With all the people that are coming from out of the area, we know that we're gonna have people who are not familiar with what resources out there. They're gonna be calling us, and we're gonna have to be giving them direction. So we're gonna up staff in plans for the upcoming eclipse. And what they do is they talk about emergency medical dispatch. That's the process by when somebody calls in, the call is interrogated, which is a tough one to use, right? But it's interrogated, they ask what's the problem, and we give direction, medical direction to them on the phone, what they could do until the ambulance gets there, then we coordinate the ambulance get there. So our folks do that, and an EMD session could be a minute, it could be 7 minutes if it's a critical patient that they have to give direction to on how to treat the patient. So we do that, and we not only do it for the city of Buffalo, but we're open to many other agencies or towns and villages that are outside the city of Buffalo. We offer that service. We monitor hospital status. Right now, the hospitals are having some challenges with staffing themselves. And what happens is ambulances get there, they get delayed, they can't get back into service. And so we try to monitor what the hospital's status are, so to make sure that there's ample ambulances out in the field. So we try to do all our coordination. We're anticipating, because of the influx of people, and depending on who you talk to, 700,000, 2 million, does make a difference. It's gonna be a taxing effect on the hospital situation. And we're gonna try to help out from the emergency medical services side to facilitate everything we can do there. So, what does Erie County Division of EMS do? We provide New York State Certified Advanced Life Support First Response. We also have an ambulance service. The county executive had a foresight a couple of years ago. One of those phone calls that you don't really see the return address. You answer it, hi, this is the county executive. You need to start an ambulance. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You know, you call back, when? Tomorrow. Okay, all right, so then I call my people and say, we're starting an ambulance service tomorrow. So what we did was we went through and we made sure that we were able to get the resources put together, because in a big incident like this, you need additional resources because the system's gonna be overloaded and you need additional people out there. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we're gonna deploy our resources. But this all became, we actually started about 2 years ago. September 25th, we were told we were going live, and we did. We were able to do this. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We do a lot of training, which we want to offer up to the industry here. We do stop the bleed training, which is a couple-hour course that we could help teach people how to take care of people who are, been injured, bleeding. We do hands-only CPR. Hands-only CPR came into light because not everybody wants to do mouth-to-mouth or have the intimate contact with patients that are critical. And they found through science that they were able to restore some circulation, or at least maintain a patient until high level of care got there by doing compressions. All right, and things go well here. I wouldn't have to demonstrate it with myself up here, but we offer that. And then we also do other training. We teach EMTs, we teach advanced EMTs, and now we've just recently, another phone call from the county executive, we started doing paramedic training. We should be able to have our first class start hopefully around August, September, to try to alleviate the demand on the services out there that don't have the adequate resources to provide care. We also do some large event coordination, and then the other part of the Division of EMS takes care of preparedness, as far as shelters. We set up clinics, anything that we need to do to respond to an emergency. So, as far as what we're planning on doing, how am I doing with that? Yeah, good, all right. So, Eclipse Day staffing, what we're gonna do, we have 5 ambulances that are paramedic level stock that we have out there. We have 2 in service a day in the southern areas of the county, the areas that don't have access to commercial services or large first aid squads. We have them down there. What we're gonna do is staff 5 ambulances with paramedics, EMTs, and we're gonna bring them up to an area and pre-deploy them along the area of totality. We also have 6 fly cars. Fly cars are units that have a paramedic in it with the same equipment that an ambulance has. We just don't have the transport capability. That came to light for people like me that have been doing it over 30 years that really don't wanna lift patients. So they found a car that I could sit in, go things, and then the kids come up and say, put them in. So it worked fairly well for me. But we'll have 6 of those out there, staff deployed, and they'll all be coordinated out of the AEI MERS in conjunction with what's already provided out there by the volunteers or the paid services that are out there. We'll also be in contact with Night Tech as far as road openings and closures to make sure that when the ambulances are called to a scene, we can try to get them there. Once they get there, how we're gonna get them out and get them to the hospital. Some of the other things we're looking at doing is looking at ways that we can have field hospitals or field treatment centers or just first aid stations and volunteers. Later today, we're having a meeting of 23 or 24 agencies that are out there to talk about who could open up a first aid station at the firehouse, what are their plans for staffing for the time being, and stuff like that. It's fortunate that if enough agencies close for the day, people don't have to work, we'll have a better volunteer response out there and not have to depend so much on commercial services. This is a good day for you, by the way, because my slides on eye injuries don't need to be seen. The doctor did such a great job. Well, you might pick up a few things, you know. So allow me to fast forward here. Yeah, this is much better. Right. So basically, what it comes down to is everybody's talking about the eye injuries. It's probably the most dramatic one of everything, but I don't think eye injuries are going to be the problem that we're going to see as much. You'll see a bunch. We might not even know if they have an eye injury for days. All right, so we're not going to. What I'm worried about is when you get everybody together in large groups. As Greg Butcher just mentioned, we witnessed that at the football games. In crowds, people change. There's a crowd mentality. There's a lot of other things that happen that go on, a lot of dynamics that we're going to have to deal with. So what we're hoping to do is just to support when we're out there. We're going to be traveling around, checking on people, make sure that they have the appropriate protection to view, make sure that we can, at the time, give them some in-service on how to properly wear it, because I can imagine they're going to be wearing it very, very interesting ways. It's gonna also be something where I think they're gonna be somewhat, I don't know, fashionable about it, not just take the glasses and put them on, but there's gonna be some personalities that come out of it, which would distort the capabilities of the glasses. So we'll be out there, of course, trying to make sure that we can, coach people on the proper things to do. We're also, when we do our presentations, we're talking about alternative ways to view it. There was a great comment about the fact that just because you're looking through a telescope doesn't mean that you're protected at all. It's actually intensifying the issue. So people might be thinking that they're doing something good, where in reality, it's not good. So we'll be out there to talk about that. And we're going to be stressing the fact that just don't look at it. All right. Now, I'm going to treat this the same way I treat every New Year's. When that ball comes down, I'm going to be in bed. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to put the TV on and go, well, that's an eclipse. And then I'm going to watch it 10 minutes later, and then 15 minutes later at the next program, which doesn't mean you shouldn't have your gatherings and parties and stuff like that, but you got to be conscious. This is something, we've said it time and time again, and it gets to I get tired of saying it, but there are people out there that aren't going to get the message. So we have to just reinforce it. There's many, many ways you can observe it. I think the cell phone is probably the best thing to do. It's something you can see it, but you don't have the impact of the ultraviolet effects. Aside from the eye things, like I said, I'm concerned about the other stuff that's going to happen when you get all these people. Remember back in the days of Woodstock, they done?
Yeah, Sinatra.
Right. We had a good time, but anyway, when you get everybody together, all right, things are normally pretty good, but you never know what's going to happen. All right, things happen if there was, say somebody sets off a firecracker. Because I always think of the worst stuff. I never think of the good stuff. That's why I don't go to parties. I don't go anywhere. All right, because in fact, I'm afraid of something that might happen. Somebody sets off a firecracker. What is that crowd of people going to do? They're going to start to move. And that's where you look at some stuff that happened, particularly over in Europe, where at the soccer games where they have these mass compression of people, they get trampled, and all these other injuries that are going to happen. I'm worried, that's the stuff I'm worried about, not so much the eye stuff. There's doctors that'll take care of that and work it out. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about people coming into the area. 100,000 people come into the area, that's one thing. We can deal with the volume of increased patients. If we get 1 million people, I mean, that's tenfold. And they're all going to come. They're going to come with their own medical problems. They're going to forget their medications. All right. Somebody's going to say, "Oh, it's Monday. I have dialysis. That's not dialysis today." All right. Where are we going to dialyze them? All these things are going to happen because people are. I mean, we're human, unfortunately. All Okay, so we're gonna have to deal with those things. I'm worried about falls, and I have been mocked for this line, but I'm gonna say it anyway. The early bee appearance. I was told I should rephrase that, because it doesn't make sense. I'm just thinking that if it's a nice year, bees are gonna come out early, all right? And how many people are allergic to bees? And what I'm worried about is in the middle of a crowd, a bee sting, you get somebody who's anaphylaxis, I'm not getting there very fast, and that's gonna be a problem. So we're worried about that, crushing injuries, medications I mentioned, and then field treatment. Once we get out there, the paramedic is trained to take people to the hospital and let the physicians and nurses complete the care. We're gonna have to adjust some of what we do and do more field care, because we're not gonna get them to the hospital. Because as I said, most of the hospitals are, this is where you participate. Downtown. How am I getting there? All right, Route 33, that's gonna be busy. You know, and so there's concerns about that. So we're gonna be doing a lot of what we think field treatment, and then we'll have ways to deal with the hospital. We're working on that right now, so we can have telemedicine with the ERs, so we can release these people back out to the field. And because you know, most of the patients that we get can be treated and released, especially if it's a minor injury. So we'll be working on that. We're gonna pre-position our ambulances and staff, as I mentioned. We're also looking into our MRC, our Medical Reserve Corps. All right, and that's volunteers that have medical training that we wanna pre-deploy out in the area to sit there and help out people that might just need a little guidance, might need to know where a hospital is, or can we take them, instead of going to hospital, can we direct them to immediate treatment? All right, can we make a phone call to a physician and get some care over the phone? What can we do to reduce the overload at the hospitals? Because the hospitals will be overloaded. I'm telling you right now, on a normal day, they're overloaded because of the volume of patients. Once we bring these folks in from out of town, there's the possibility that they're gonna overload. So we wanna do that, and we also are kicking around the fact that we wanna work with the industry here about, do I put a medical reserve corps person, in EMT, you know, basic life support trained individual in a hotel. You have wherever 100, 200, 500, whatever your capacity is. Somebody's gonna get sick, all right? If I have a medical reserve corps person there with an AED, all right, and then directions on what to do, where the hospital stuff, we can probably lower the load of patients trying to seek out hospitals in the middle of the night. So we're gonna be working on that. There's a couple of ways to figure that out. I just have to see, as we get closer, I'll find out how many I actually have and how I can distribute it. It might be a couple of hotels in an area share that person, and they just come back and forth, because not everybody needs an ambulance. If they do need an ambulance, they'll have communications abilities to go right to the source, to the dispatcher, and have the ambulance dispatched, and we'll know where the ambulance is throughout the whole thing. So we're working on that. We have a couple people thinking through that. Well, I am just out of sync, so we're just gonna roll. Just believe me, I got a slide for it. We're doing a lot of communications, and my compadre there, Greg Butcher, has talked about the fact we've had meetings. One of the things that I want to bring out to everybody here, which really is in the script, is the fact that the cooperation between agencies in Western New York far surpasses anything in New York State. And the people are coming from Albany, coming from Long Island and stuff, and they can't believe that Greg knows me, we talk, he knows how many kids I have. We had a meeting on something 3 days ago. We're having a meeting 2 weeks ago. They can't believe the communication across discipline that's happening. It's been fostered by our leadership, saying, if you don't talk to them, you're not gonna know them. And in a time of an emergency is not the time to meet people. You don't wanna be shaking hands during a disaster. So we've spent an awful lot of time. Greg had his meeting, he said about 90 people yesterday. I said, I think, but every discipline, okay, aviation, border patrol, fire departments, everybody's there, and I would say 80% of the people knew each other and had a good relationship with them, so that when I call somebody and say, I need help from the border patrol, it's like, all right, who are you? Send me your card, you know, and I'll get back to you if I can. No, it's, okay, Greg, we'll take care of it, all right? And then that person will talk to Greg and say, I just talked to Greg, which gets confusing after a while. all right? But, and that's something that I have to bring up because it's absolutely unique. A meeting like this is a great thing to do, because everybody's here meeting, talking, and we're getting on the same page, which I really encourage. So we are having our, we have a regular EMS coordinators meeting of the 8 counties in Western New York, Genesee, Niagara County, Wyoming County, Allegheny, all those counties, all right? We get together on the phone, and we were just on the phone yesterday talking about this, and we've been talking about this for a year. Can I give you a booklet that says what we're gonna do? No, because we're not gonna know until the week before. But we all have this baseline of what everybody can supply. Genesee County doesn't feel it's gonna get hit as bad as Erie County, and we already have a verbal relationship that if I need help, I can call Genesee County, and next thing you know, you're gonna have ambulances coming down the road, all right, or resources coming down. So we have all that worked out. And I think I mentioned that in a little while, we're having a meeting of the 20+ agencies that provide EMS in the area of totality on how we're gonna coordinate resources. We're also looking at putting some medics on ATVs so we can get through crowds. You wouldn't believe how many people have applied for that one. It's amazing. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's an ATV. No, they're there for the people. I might be old, but I'm not that foolish, all right? We've also had meetings with the airport, what we can do if something does happen. I thought about putting a field hospital out on a grassy area just outside the fence at the airport. We're not gonna go into that, but we're gonna be prepared that if something happens, that we can upstage something fairly fast because it has an easy access to areas. But there again, we're getting cooperation from the NFTA and the airport. You need something, we'll take care of it. So that was very good. We've also talked with New York State. How am I doing for time here? I haven't heard any. It's not like church where they jingle the keys, huh? Okay. We are talking with New York State. There's a thing was alluded to earlier. There's a party team, which is part of the public health law, that if you have 5,000 people or more in an area which isn't overly defined, at one time, which isn't overly defined, go figure law, all right? Sorry. And people are filing for the Part 18. The Part 18 requires certain staffing, ambulances, number of ambulances, number of personnel, all the stuff. So if I have 3 Part 18s in, say, Clarence, why can't I just share the resources? Why do I have to put the same resources 3 times? Because I don't have them. So the state has actually come along and made some agreements that we'll be able to coordinate those multiple events under the county. So we can coordinate, well, we have communications and stuff like that. We've also talked to them about resources to come in. At some of the snowstorms that we've had in the past, the county executive gave us direction, we need more ambulances. And what we do is we mobilize the statewide ambulance mobilization plan and brought in ambulances into the area from downstate New York, upstate New York, and brought in to supplement what we have right here. So we've already had those conversations on what the state can provide if something happens. And we have a non-committal committal that they'll be there, government, state government. We have that non-committal commit that it'll happen. If we have an incident, we'll get resources, but there's gonna be a delay. So we've been working on that for a while. Someone over here brought up cell phones. I'm worried. I am worried, right? At a Bills game, I can't watch TV from my position at the stadium, right? Because the cell phones are overloaded, all right? And I just, once the mass of people get here, I think it's gonna be taxed. You can bring in a cow, you can bring in a dinosaur, you can bring in anything you want, right? It's gonna be a challenge. And that's why, as Greg brought up, we have redundancy from the emergency, not the public side, but from the emergency side, we do have redundancies. So we'll go back to the good old days of cell phone are over. We'll go back to a radio, all right? And we have actually what we call COMLs that take care of the radios and the frequencies that we can get onto frequencies and communicate between ourselves from an emergent perspective. All right, it's not going to help you calling home to see if the fish were fed, but it's going to help us from an emergency. So we do have multiple ways to deal with that. But that does bother me because right now, in a crowd, somebody's gonna need EMS, they're gonna pick up their cell phone, and they're gonna call 911. Alright, if they get through, it's gonna go down to the county will send it to the PSAP, it'll come through our communication center, now I gotta get there. That's gonna be a challenge. So, you have a field, you have 3,000 people in the field, where are you? Well, I'm here. Where are you? There's 3,000 of them. Now at the stadium, we have light posts, you know, we have different types of markings that we can kind of zero in. If they're in the field, it's gonna be challenging. Now with the advancement of cell phones and dispatching, we can narrow down where that cell phone is. And then we can actually communicate with the ambulances and guide them in, right? But if the cell goes down, it's gonna be quite a challenge. So I don't wanna harp on it too much, but these are the things we're trying to work out how we're gonna do now. The other thing that we need to be concerned about is the influx of viewers with access and functional needs. People are very mobile right now, and I think it's a great thing, all right? Except when I'm getting on Southwest, and I gotta wait 7 people before I get on because, but the fact that we're gonna have people out there that are gonna need additional care, that's gonna come down to EMS being able to respond to that. And then folks that don't speak English the way we do, we have some ways, we have cards and stuff like that we'll hope to distribute that'll help people communicate if they're deaf, if they're blind, if they speak another language and things like that. So we'll hopefully be distributing those in the near future. We have made some movement in dialysis patients where the hospitals particularly have been able to move up their dialysis times so that people that would get dialyzed on Monday are getting it Sunday or Tuesday. That, believe it or not, was born from our response to snowstorms. All right, we saw the value in that, they see the value in it, so we're not gonna have those phone calls at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I need to go to my dialysis, all right, this has already been taken care of. And then other things that go with it, there's another things that we're looking at for that. So, emergency management, I finally caught up to my slide, all right? So, I guess I'll leave you with 2 things, all right? 20 years ago, I was part of an ambulance service that, we have an annual conference that's run by New York State. And it always came out of Albany, always came out of Troy, New York, that area. So the argument was, why don't you ever come to Buffalo? And they said, why would I go to Buffalo? Well, I'm here. You know, why wouldn't you come to this end of the state? And so we talked about it and stuff like that. So just over 20 years ago, they did come to Buffalo. And they came here, and we put on a little dog and pony show upstairs, and they scheduled the conference here. I was elated. What I thought was great was when people were leaving on Sunday night, not a bad word about Buffalo, New York. Whether it was the restaurants, the facility here did a fantastic job, all right? The neighborhood, the things that they could do, they couldn't stop talking about it. So the next year, it's back in Troy, or Schenectady, just about. So I go to Schenectady and they go, you gotta get back to Buffalo. All right, I said, come. So a couple years later, they came back. Record attendance to the show. All right. And they're gonna be there this year, at the end of the year, they're going to Rochester, but we're expecting them to come back to Buffalo in 2 weeks. And it's all because of the effort of the industry, the convention center, which did a fantastic job, and just the people. You know, these people, my compadres loved it. All right, so I can't wait until I come back again, and we can show off Buffalo and what Buffalo is. And then maybe we'll even do an after-action presentation for them on what we did for here. So I guess I'll let you go with that, and I appreciate it. I've got time for questions, if you like. I'll be around. That's our website that has to do with the Eclipse. Have at it. Put down that tomato. I looked at that. She came up with a question. Thank you.
Once you have the list of where the EMS is going to be pre-stationed, is that going to be accessible somewhere for event planners?
Right, we're going to try to distribute that. It might be through the website. But once we figure out how many people we have and how many we can deploy, and then we'll work with the agencies where we're gonna put them, and the hours that we're gonna put them. Yeah, we'll publicize it.
Okay, great, and one more question. If we do the, part 18 and we have a paid service at our event, could that be pulled for emergencies? Like,
No.
is there?
If you sign a contract with an agency to do part 18, they're committed to that event. Right? If they pull it, that's a no-no. Because right in the part 18 agreement, it states what resources will be on location for the duration of the event. But just remember, you do that, then that's one less ambulance I have for this week.
Yeah.
It's all about me. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My salesperson who does state associations, do not let this man leave before you get all of the information for that conference, please. Because we want that to come back to Buffalo. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. This has been fantastic. I hope you've learned a lot. I know it was also very entertaining. There will be more information as we get further details. The county will be putting out that information. We will also, through Renata and her newsletter, we'll be pushing all that information out. Renata has a fantastic relationship with Jason Hurley in the county executive's office and keeps us informed of all of these updates. So be on the lookout. Keep going to visit BuffaloNiagara.com's website, as well as the county website, as well as the Buffalo Eclipse Consortium website. All of this information is very readily available to you, and I know you all have crisis communication plans. Hopefully you will be updating those sooner than later so that you're all prepared for April 8th. And thank you again for coming out today, and be safe.